pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Bryce Steiner?
Yes.
Jason Franks?
Yes.
Steve Jordan?
Yep.
Kenny Reinhardt?
Yes.
Dean Reister?
Here.
Ryan Smith? Okay. You guys all have a copy of the minutes from last month. Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll make the motion. There,
Oh, who's that?
there's I have a correction on there.
Okay.
It said in visitors, it's just no one had not requested, it's not should be removed.
Oh.
There was another typo, but
Yep.
this one was a double negative, so
I
I had
got
to
you.
put it out.
Okay, you can take that out. Motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
I'll make it. I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Let's see, Jason Franks?
Yep.
Kenny Reinhardt?
Yes.
Bryce Steiner?
Yes.
Steve Jordan?
Yes.
Dean Reister?
Yes.
Ryan Smith?
Yes.
Okay. You guys have a copy of the new finance report. Are there any questions on the finance report? I don't believe so. Nobody submitted any, but if not, motion to approve the disbursement. Steve Jordan, motion to approve. Second.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the disbursements for the month of September. Steve Jordan?
Yeah.
Bryce Steiner?
Yes.
Jason Franks?
Yes.
Kenny Reinhardt?
Yes.
Dean Reister?
Yes.
Ryan Smith? Yes. All right. Hopefully each of you can sign down there on one of the lines at the bottom of the reconciliation report. There are no special notes. Police report, there's, I guess George is not here at the moment, so we move into the fiscal officer report. This month we have the second reading of the resolution 2023-14 to accept the amounts and rates determined by the Budget Commission. This is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. We don't need anything for that since we're in the second reading. Committee reports.
I have one.
Okay.
Personnel meeting met on October 5th. Was Brian Smith, myself, Jan Reed, and Kate Oberlin met. Company order at 4:30. We discussed the zoning duties and required time that he needs to accomplish the zoning duties. I know last month I brought it up that we need to start reeling in our zoning ordinances and our village ordinances to make sure that everybody's compliant so we don't have neighbors turning in neighbors. So we asked Gabe what he needs. He said that with his duties as what he's been doing, he's part-time, and as of lately he's been spending more hours handling zoning duties. He said some of it is administrative and secretarial, which our former administrator used to take care of for him. And Gabe's only part-time. He don't have time to do a lot of things with what we compensate him to do. So we assess the value of our zoning inspector and the compensation for the zoning inspector, and what we're looking at is we're probably going to have to change a little bit of the ordinance of 2010-16 to push a little more compensation his way. Probably going to increase his hours a little bit to cover down on some of the things that the village needs him to cover down on, like traveling into town and making sure that buildings ain't being built without permits and zoning violations ain't being committed at will. So we'll meet, we're gonna have another financial meeting, and then after a financial committee meets, we'll make a recommendation to what we're thinking we need to do to help compensate our zoning inspector going forward. We adjourn that meeting at 6:30.
George, you want to do George?
Thanks,
Yeah, well, you're in here, George. Do you want to take care of your police?
Sure. Y'all have a copy of the report. Any questions?
No questions for the police report. I guess we'll move on to the utilities commission.
So, utilities had a meeting, it was September 20th. We discussed the current rates of Paragon and what they're paying now versus possible increases, and that is in your administrator's report on the last page. There's the numbers, so it has what we're charging them now, and then the increases. We just looked at like 5-cent increments just to keep the numbers whole. So you can kind of see where we're at, where the numbers are at. I don't know if you guys have looked at the report, or if you haven't, it would give you time to look at it. But it's basically just a decision for us to make if we want to increase those rates, or leave them where they're at. And that's the information that we asked Brian to provide. So that's the information we can use to make that decision. Iris, we talked about that, if it was still useful relative to how many people it were. I think Brian was gonna check the cost and the contract length.
We have, fiscal officer found where we have $500 budgeted. We have not received a bill as of January 1, to my knowledge, or made no payment. We attempted to send an alert today and it would not go. A couple weeks ago, maybe 3, I sent an alert. And you go through the process of doing it, because there's several steps, but I identified cell phones, home phones, phones in general, text messages. I did not do emails, and to my knowledge, the only thing that went through was home phones. So we've had some issues with our new software, billing utilities. We have moved through that, and so I've asked Valerie now to start contact the company, find out what the issue is. It's not on our end unless they have shut the system down due to lack of payment, that we haven't gotten the bills and stuff. But I mean, we have a book, we can sit there and follow step 1 through 5 and stuff, so we're not certain as to why it's not working, so.
So Brian, I got one on the 27th.
You got it via text?
Yep.
So mine didn't come through.
Yeah, it says this is a
Test only? or-
system test, yep.
Yeah,
I
it was weird.
did receive that
Yeah.
too.
Didn't come through on my phone stuff, and I didn't talk to anybody that had gotten it, and that's why I assumed it did not go through.
I seen a system test come through. I just couldn't recall where I seen it, but yeah, it was, or it was text message on my phone.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
So you did
Didn't
better
work
than you
this
thought you
time.
did. You did better than you thought you did.
So I guess, with the discussion of that, we enacted that thing to help alert the village people when there is a water main break and such, and anything else that we think that we need to notify village via text or email of information. I believe Amy's the one that kind of enacted that when we did it, and she found the system and she got it enacted and we agreed, and she signed up participants, and I believe you can change the number of participants. It's a fee for so many people, if I recall correctly. I don't know how much everybody's found out about it, but this is kind of the information I got from Amy when I contacted her after this meeting. So I guess it's just kind of a thing, whether or not we decide we really want to pursue it and keep it. I think there was 100 and some people that signed up for it.
I think there's 106 on it.
I like the system myself, it works. It's depending on the value of it, I guess it's kind of on the council, whether we think there's a value there for it.
Who turns that in? Just like there's a water leak right now, who reports that?
Well, it used to be April. April would go in, and I think Amy would too. They would go in and stuff, do it remotely on their cell phones. Because generally, when there's an issue, nobody's at work. It's usually evenings, weekends, that type of case. So you have to be able to do it remotely. I find it to be a very cumbersome system. It's not like Facebook, you just go type it in and you're done. There's multiple steps till you get to the point where you can then hit send and stuff. But, so, I mean, it would either be me, or it would be Valerie that would do it when we had the
I
information
wonder,
to
in the
do it.
past year, have they did an upgrade on that system?
We have no idea.
So Valerie's checking into where
She
we're
will
at.
be next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's keep pursuing and see what we can find out about it, what it's gonna take to maintain it, and see if we can't get a comprehensive plan in place on either keeping it or abolishing it, whatever council decides to do moving forward.
Well, and if it's still working for some people, then I don't know if we're still paying for it somehow, like if it's drawing
I
from
don't know
anything.
that we've
or-
ever been.
Have you paid?
I've never been billed since I've been here, and the purchase order that was made out by Amy at the beginning of the year has not been used, so there's not been a payment paid to Iris for the year. So nothing, I've
So
never
Val's
received a
gonna
bill or anything that's come via email or paper
Okay.
mail. So and maybe it's billed by how many times it's used, so since you sent out tests back in September, maybe we'll receive a bill. I don't know how it works.
Could
I
be.
don't know either.
I like it. I
Maybe
like
get
it.
somebody
Just
for free.
how
I've
much is
never
it
had
worth it?
people tell me, wow, that's great, but as soon as it didn't work, I had people call and saying, I thought we had
Mhm.
noticed it and we didn't get it, so, you know.
Wasn't she doing it by like your water bill account?
You have to have a water bill
Yeah,
account to sign that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you control the users.
Because I think you got 2 per account,
2 per house.
per water account, well, yeah.
Water account, yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, well then we'll put a pin in that and I guess let us know what Ralph finds
Table until
out.
next month, I guess, and see if we have information.
Next,
Have we decided on Paragon?
We
Uh,
haven't done that
We
yet.
No,
haven't
we-
made a decision yet, he's just kinda
I'm
in his
just-
report right now, we
Okay.
can readdress it in
Alright.
new business, roll business.
so the other thing that we discussed was Rita Brinkman. She came to the meeting and we discussed it there and actually went out to the site and looked at the storm, looked at the locations and kind of stood out there and saw what the issue was. Talking with Brian, I asked him if we can get some information, and that's that sheet with the calculus problems on there that looks like flashbacks to your school. I don't know what that'll be, so we'll have to figure out from Curtis, I guess, what exactly that means, and if that's, I know Rita had said she would be willing to fix the problem herself.
Yeah, she said she was willing to pay for the work that needed done, she just needed help locating a place to tap in to the storm drain, and so she wanted to know wanted us to help her locate the storm drain or whoever she hires to do her work. I mean, she's not asking the village to come in and try to drain her property, she's got a plan in place, she just wants a little help finding the drain and seeing what we have to do to get into
So-
it.
And I believe that's what that indicates, but I'm,
So if we give
Not a
this
drain expert.
copy of this to her and she can give it to who she was
She
talking
can
to
talk
and
to
see.
contractors and
Yeah.
see if, and maybe keep the lines of communication open to the village to allow that contractor to contact Curtis or yourself and see what we can do to help her out down
yeah,
there.
absolutely.
So yeah, we adjourned at 5:30 out on the streets. That was that. So then, yeah, I don't know when we discussed the Paragon, the details of that, but
That's coming up in old business.
Okay.
We got some new business with the SBT.
Yes.
Small business technology. So is that it for committee reports? I believe so.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for community
So
report.
on new business, we've got the small business technology IT proposal that I think Brian's got more information on.
So, the chief had notified me that they had issues with a computer and stuff, and they had been working with a company, they're based, I think out of Cleveland, but they have an office in Paulding. The mayor had problems with her computer, they came over while they were here, they fixed it, and we ended up, George and I, and Kevin sat down and had a conversation with them. One of the things that, the dilemma we have is we don't have anybody to call when we have a problem. I mean, literally no one. And so, we needed to find somebody, but, our provider, is it PEP?
That's the insurance provider, yes,
Right.
but,
They want to come in and do an audit of our IT. Well, there's nothing to audit because we don't have nothing and stuff. And I know that they're gonna say, you need to do the following things. So I told them, I said, look, we're entertaining the option to enter into a generalized agreement with this company that they would be able to provide us the security software and storage online and antivirus and all the things that you need to have as a government entity. They're able to do it, but until I take it to council, I don't want you to interact with them. Once we agree to do that, then I'll put you two together so they can say, here's our plan of attack, and that's good, but you need to do this and that and the other thing, so that we do it correctly the first time. So, we have a proposal for them to address George's needs to include a computer. It's in steps, it's listed with, the cover letter, because I asked him to help us in a layman's term, understand what his quote is. And stuff, so it tells you what step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4 is, and the cost for each one of the steps. So I generally want to make you aware of that I'm going to cut a purchase order and move forward to do this. Because, as I said, we don't have anybody to call. We don't have any service provider, we have no agreement. And this is not an agreement per se, it's an hourly rate, guaranteed, and they'll come here and fix it, or they'll remote into your computers, whatever the case may be. But they've been very helpful.
So if we don't need them, it don't cost us.
Then you only pay when you use them.
Other than the initial setup.
Other than
Yeah.
this-
The
this
initial
invoice
setup, but
that
if
they're
we don't
gonna
use them,
invoice
there's gonna be no
Right,
cost every
yeah,
year.
once that's done, then that's correct.
So are all our department heads okay with this technology? They need this too, I guess. I don't know how much of the village, I'm not a big IT guy, so I don't know how much of the village is really involved with this.
Well, it involves anyone in the village that has a computer at their desk, and the decision makers were all a part of it. George, myself, Kevin.
Well, and like
So-
earlier this year, we weren't getting EMS reports because Ashley had her computer crashed on her.
Right.
Well, this would probably eliminate that issue because everything would be backed up
So
to the
this
cloud.
involves her, probably
They-
the fire
they-
department. and
When they were
stuff
here, they
Not
said they
the-
were gonna,
Not
they,
the
I
fire department.
don't know about the fire department.
She's
They count-
just
they-
got- I
they
think she
counted
does both
the
on-
billing clerk for the
Yeah.
EMS, they counted that.
So everything that we have on our computers will be backed up on the cloud. So if we lose a computer, we just plug it in, boom, download, and we're done. And stuff. Right now, we don't have that luxury.
And George had the same issue
We
too
never
with his
had.
computer crash.
No.
Do they know that our phones are VoIP? I see on here they have, they've got power over Ethernet switches and stuff. They'll have to know that our phones run through Meadowlink, and consequently through these routers, it looks like they're replacing
I thought it said that.
their switches. I do see the PoE, yeah, but anyhow, just, they should know that, in case you haven't talked to them about that. 'Cause
I did bring it up. But
It will mess things up if they try to change things out. and-
I mean, they know that
We
we're
did
on
tell
Meadowlink.
Meadowlink was our provider for the
Yeah.
phones. We
For
told
the
them.
phone.
For phones and
then-
internet.
Yeah,
Now, they're what, 4 hours away?
No, they have an office in Paulding.
And they're actually
Yeah.
looking for one
It says
for
Wadsworth.
Wayne too.
Yeah, they're looking at doing
I
one.
think that's.
Yeah,
the
that's
billing
Wadsworth
office.
is over by,
That's the billing office.
yeah. They have the physical office there too.
Right.
That's their corporate office, but they have an office in.
Okay.
Paulding is the nearest one.
So I
And
just,
then, and there's no time agreement on this, is there?
No.
This is just the initial setup, with a one-time cost of initial setup,
correct,
and then hourly as we need.
correct.
So now, you bought a new computer, is that that'll work?
They would include that for the antivirus and stuff, from my understanding, and it'll also be on the cloud backup, so.
Have you been happy with what they did so far?
They're amazing.
Okay,
George likes them.
well, there you go. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with it too.
Yeah, I don't know, Mark.
I mean, the thing is that, we're gonna end up getting, you can get tagged by the state auditors for not being in conformity when it comes to backup and antiviruses and things like that. And and this is one of the things that it'll alleviate.
I guess one thing we all do know is that IT is a forever changing item that is always gonna be an expense,
It's a black hole. Just never ends.
probably by design.
Could be. Like attorneys. So that's all I have. Sorry, bro. That's all I have on that, and we'll move forward with that.
That's new business.
Is there any other new business that anybody needs to bring up tonight? If not, we'll move into old business.
I have several things, but I promise to make it quick. For personnel, I'm starting to get insurance rates. The first one I got is, I don't want to go into too much detail, but the first one I got was less than double digits, which I was really generally surprised. So I am supposed to get a second rate profile this week, coming week, and stuff, and then I'll sit down with personnel and we can review it. So you're on personnel, aren't you?
Finance with it.
Or finance, yeah. But we'll sit down and review
It's the
it.
same committee, I guess, finance and personnel.
Schaefer Road, I think I mentioned it at last month's meeting. Engineer's estimate came in at 1.6 to 1.8 million to make the needed repairs. One of the things I need to do is moving forward with a cost benefit analysis, and that is not to exceed $10,000. In order to go and get state funding, the state is going to request that to be done to determine whether or not it's the amount that you're looking to spend is justifiable. So we have to have that done. So I have the same engineering firm that's going to do it for $10,000 or less. Water plant, we're still waiting for the OEPA to finalize it, the general plan. And then once that's done, we can move forward to phase 2. But there was some emails back and forth in the last few weeks, and I'm not certain as to what their issue is, but they have questions. The LMI study, I should have the final numbers next week from Maumee Valley as to where we came in at. The engineering for Canal and Wentworth for replacement of water line and storm. Engineer's estimate came in at $76,000. The state of Ohio changed the minimum bid from 50 to 75 effective October 3rd. This is still over the bid threshold, so we will have to go out and bid. So I'm in the process of creating the bid document so that we can go out and get a rough or a bid on what it would cost to do the engineering, up to include bid documents for the replacement of those water and storm lines. Street lights. I hear a lot about we have street lights out, but nobody calls. And I work during the day, so I don't necessarily see them. If you have a street light, you can call my telephone number, 419-258-2371, extension 1. Tell me where the street light is, the closest house address that it's to, and I'll report it to AEP right away. But I have to have that in order to report it.
You used to need a poll number.
Well, the poll numbers are 16 or 17 digits. Nobody ever gives me the right one. A poll number, the way it works is all 17 or 16 or 19 digits is on the first pole in the block. If you're at the last pole in the block, you got 4 or 5 digits and that's it. So if you give me the 4 or 5 digits, it doesn't work. So, but I can put in the address and then I can put in a notation that it's, across the street, on the corner, whatever. And that seems to work better than the poll numbers and stuff. So if anybody has any issues with them, just give me a call. I'm happy to turn them in. Erie Street sidewalk, we are looking at, weather permitting, the beginning of the construction of that next week. Letters have been sent to the affected landowners to make them aware of that. The splash pad is waiting on the return of their engineering for some survey marking work for the main features. And they're just waiting on them, they're hoping. Railroad Street is complete and signed off, and it came in $3,500 under actual cost estimates, which was a good thing because it was us that received the $3,500, so that helps us. On the sidewalk, I did apply to the Paulding County Area Foundation for a grant to help defray the cost of the sidewalk on Erie Street. I was in the bank, and I forget if it was Twyla or who it was, mentioned it to me that they were on the board, and if we would like to take and apply, they would consider giving us some money, and I was more than happy to.
Taking an interview.
Absolutely. And that is, yeah. Any
Brian,
questions?
Yeah, Brian, on the water tower rework, when will they start that, or is that waiting on EPA also?
No, that is in the process of the bid document being created. So once the bid document's done, we go out to bid and then the process begins. But the bid documents, unfortunately, you kind of stand in line.
Yeah.
Some of it I can do, but a lot of it has to be done through Maumee Valley.
Okay. There's no time window on the grant that we received to get that started.
I think it has to be used by the end of '24.
Okay.
So, and it doesn't take, it takes about 90 to maybe 100, 120 days to do a complete water tower, from beginning to end. So, any other questions?
Are we getting that fire hydrant moved that's
Can't.
way back and high?
We talked about that last month. We can't move it because of its
Can't move
proximity. And if we took and flipped it 180 degrees, it'd be way too close to the road and stuff. And you have to have a certain distance because there's mechanicals in there stuff. And I mean, if we moved it, it would be extremely expensive. So, but we discussed that last month.
How far is it in the way? I mean, or is it?
It's not in the way, it's just that
And the fire.
aesthetically,
It's too
people
far
don't
off.
necessarily like it, but in reality, it's not in the way.
Other side.
Is that fire hydrant down by the medical center?
It's past.
It's
it.
past
The
that.
second house past it, I think.
Okay.
It's too far off the road.
It's right next door to Stumpy's or
So,
something.
so, do we need to change, it's an old water meter, or a hydrant, right?
No,
There's nothing wrong with the hydrant.
there's nothing
There's
wrong
nothing
with it.
wrong with it? Oh, okay.
It's a working hydrant.
Okay.
There was just some question. It was my under, and I'm the one that brought it up, there was maybe misunderstanding on my part, that we're gonna have to route the sidewalk around it.
Well, we would if we went with ODOT, but when doing it with a private contractor, as long as we stay in the easement, we can take and do anything we want. So if we need to make a little bit of a curve, we can do that.
Better. And also, there was some question, it was too far off the road, it was supposed to be within 20 feet of the road. And I talked to Bobby Addis, the fire chief, and former chief Ray Friend, and they suggested it be moved because it'd be, for two reasons, easier access, in inclement weather. If there's snow or something on the ground, you don't have to drag hose so far. And secondly, it's finding, when we have a mutual aid fire and there's a department coming in from out of town, it's difficult to find fire hydrants anyway. The farther off the road they are, the more difficult it is to find them.
So I guess the question would be is whether the cost to move it, how far?
Well, you're basically gonna take where it's at, you have the water line there, you're gonna take it, you're just gonna flip it over like this. But there's more to it than just flipping it
Sure.
over. The problem is you're gonna be too close to the road, and Curtis told me, he said the expense would be significant. He said this, it's not like just,
Better off just leave it alone.
well, that's my feelings.
I mean, it's kind of been there for a long time, but
And
if we're just aesthetics and we're off
my
a few
initial
feet.
concern was aesthetics. I thought that's gonna look ridiculous going up and around the sidewalk around it, but if we're still within the easement, within the confines of what we are allowed to do and have a good straight sidewalk, because that sidewalk gonna be there for a long time, I'm agreeing with it.
Any other questions?
Along this sidewalks, Cruise, I've had several people asking me again about getting sidewalks on Cruise. That's the one that goes from the school to the park, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it parallels Harmon.
Even people, actually, these were people who lived there.
We had,
And if we could
I mean, we
prioritize that.
debated, we went back and forth, and I talked to the school, and I talked to the chief and stuff, and we're doing the Safe Routes to School program right now with Harmon Road and stuff, but we're not looking at Cruise. And talking with the superintendent of the schools, it was his belief that Harmon was far more needed than Cruise was, based on the amount of kids walking on
I think Harmon is
It
definitely.
was
important,
turned
too.
down at one time.
it. Mhm.
Maybe,
I would agree, Harmon would take priority.
I mean, yeah, to connect that trailer park, it'd be kind of nice if we could connect the trailer park to the park down to downtown.
yeah.
That would be, especially since the town owns most of that property, it'd be easy.
It'd be easy, it'd be expensive, but it'd be easy.
With the exception of Erie Street, I think your most dangerous street in town for children is Cruise.
It's Cruise. Yeah.
There are some that walk along Harmon, but typically a lot of traffic from the school to the park, especially like cross-country and students, and just for future reference, I would definitely take a look at putting something there.
Yeah, there is a lot of kids on Cruise.
Yeah.
There's, with those new houses off that side road, I'm not sure.
Well,
if
we're
they're-
not- I mean-
We got Erie handled this year, so maybe
guess
next year we can look at getting
Well,
Cruise
I mean,
done.
you know, we could check and see, we're not that far down the road with the Safe Routes to Schools. We may be able to, we haven't submitted anything to the state, we may be able just to say, hey, look, we've had some discussions, and we think the Cruise is the priority, Harmon's not.
Maybe
And
both.
just make the switch.
Can, the application submission process starts in December, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
we have a meeting next week. We've been doing online meetings, but we have a physical in-person meeting next week,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken and stuff. We could certainly discuss that.
You think Cruise has got heavier traffic than Harmon?
It has a lot of kids walking on it. I mean, I don't live on either one.
From the school to the
I
park.
just, that people are just telling me that one because so many kids go to the park. and run, whether it's track or cross-country.
That makes sense, yeah.
And so they have to get there somehow.
I guess, and I'm not gonna dispute that or disagree with that. I just kind of been looking at the truck routes myself with the bigger trucks and things like that. That's why I kind of thought Harmon was a priority with the truck route, and of course 49 is a state route with semis coming in town.
Yeah, if you think
The cruise is kind of a back road and shouldn't be any big trucks on it, and hopefully our patrons or people are driving carefully down there when the kids are there.
the kids do run out the back of the school for sporting events, and that's
That-
fed right into cruise.
With that sidewalk goes straight
Yeah.
to Cruise. That's the one I'm referring to.
So if
Then you have a
anything,
good
if we
idea
get
of
state routes
connecting
on that one,
the
maybe the
trailer
village
park to the park
And then
to
Cruise,
Cruise,
yes.
because then that gives them a safe route.
That gives everybody a safe route then.
I'm all for looking into all this to try to get all this accomplished.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we know we can't just put sidewalks everywhere at one time,
Yeah.
so we'll section it off a little bit at a time and kind of keep working on it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have an ordinance that states new construction in town is to include sidewalks?
There's something in the zoning, we'd have to talk
So
to Gabe.
there's all kinds of new homes on Cruise, no sidewalks.
I have heard it both ways, and I don't know officially what it is. I think there is an ordinance somewhere.
I think I read where it is required, but it has not been obviously enforced. Because you have,
That goes
you
back
got
on
Diamond
zoning.
Street, that's all new housing that doesn't have sidewalks.
Mhm.
So,
That
That
would,
was something I thought we was gonna have zoning look into.
and I think that would be tied to the occupancy permit. Which I know Gabe said he wants to increase enforcement of. So, in order to get an occupancy permit, the sidewalk would be required.
any other questions?
Yeah,
Yes,
so, Wilcox Street, is there any update on the trailer? Is that part of what we're gonna talk about, with Shane, or is that,
No, I don't know anything about the
Okay.
Wilcox thing.
so,
I don't,
where we left it off with it was that they were, it was going to, civil court, and, did they get, was there a, did we do a building inspect? We were gonna hire somebody to inspect the building?
I don't know what's transpired because I don't do zoning.
The village was gonna, we talked about getting a building inspector to go inspect it. That was where we started with it.
Well, the owner of the mobile home, I'm pretty certain probably wouldn't give us permission to enter his premise. I mean, based on what's going on right now.
Okay? He's gotta have that, right?
Have what?
He's gotta have that inspection done.
I don't know. I mean,
This is probably a conversation that involved Gabe in.
Yeah.
Cause I know there's some legal stuff going on with it.
Yep.
So I don't know what liberties we are to discuss everything openly.
Yep.
So at this point, I don't know anything.
Do we need an executive session to talk about it?
we can't go into
Yeah,
executive
because
session.
Shane would be part of it because of the conflict of interest, so we would
You have
need
to
to
have
get
an
a
attorney.
different solicitor to
We'd
do.
have to
I mean,
hire
we-
another.
You could go, I could step away.
Yeah.
We can do
that's
it again, because we need to go into executive
Yeah.
session anyway, and you guys can talk about anything
But
you
you can't
want.
go into
Yeah.
pending litigation.
So if there's,
Without an attorney
You have to
present.
have-
You have to have an attorney present for pending litigation, executive session.
Basically, I think we need to decide if we want to back the zoning board's decision that they made. And if we do, then we need to hire a lawyer to go to court to fight that
Represent the
battle.
village.
If we
Right.
Win or
choose
lose.
not to back their decision, then we tell them we're not backing their decision and that they should reverse it, and then they reverse it, and then that group of people on the street, like whoever, they can hire like a lawyer and do like a civil suit where it's not the village involved. So I think those are the options, the way I understood it.
so is the village involved in litigation with this? Is that, that's what I'm bringing it up.
Well,
because
the
do we-
problem that we have right now is I believe there's some stuff going on with an attorney against our zoning board filed by the people that own the property.
Yeah.
And we have a conflict with our solicitor, and the village would have to hire a solicitor to at least represent the village in this legal battle, or whatever it may be. I'm not super involved with it. I'm not sure what's going on with it 100%.
That's why I'm
I
bringing it up.
don't,
because I'm
think
asking-
anything has been filed in court. I think there's been conversations, I think there's been documents exchanged, I think there's been questions, but I don't think anything has been submitted to common pleas. And I may be wrong, but
And that's probably something that we might need to discuss with Gabe, to find out where he's at with it.
So-
It's a zoning issue that Gabe and the zoning board need to handle, and I guess if they need something from us, they need to come ask us. That's
Okay, so-
kind of where I'm at with it.
All right, so I'm bringing it up because I'm asking, I'm wondering, do we need a different attorney? Do we need representation?
I think that's what we're waiting to find out.
I can address that, you're gonna need a different attorney. If something is filed in court, to the
Yeah.
common police court, you 100% will need a different attorney.
Yeah,
But I
Well,
think-
that's the
but-
part of
But I
it.
think we're waiting for Gabe or the zoning board to come to council and tell us what they need
okay,
and why they need it.
okay.
At the last meeting, that didn't really exist, Gabe had stated that he had went to Brian about finding an attorney, and he had said Brian had found one for him, from my understanding.
I did not find one for him.
Okay.
I spoke to somebody that I know who has a in-depth knowledge of zoning and has represented clients for 50 years. And his simple response was, walk away.
But I think we have to back our appeals board.
Well, I think that, let me take that back, what I think is irrelevant. I think it's whatever council thinks is relevant.
I think we're waiting for more information
From Gabe.
from Gabe or the zoning board or whoever to tell us what it is they need from council.
Okay.
And why.
All right, sounds good.
We're just gonna table it, let's move on.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no other new business, let's move into the Paragon water rates.
Okay, so each one of you received a copy. We had a utilities committee meeting. Let me figure out where I set my sheet. The gray column is current cost. The contract expires at the end of the year. I was asked to take and put in the additional cost to see how it would affect their overall annualized cost, simply based on their 2022 consumptions. And you'll see that if you raised it based on this chart, worst case, you're gonna go up for water and sewer, you're gonna go up $2,000 a year combined.
So, Brian, I take the first line up there. If we raise it to $330, it would cost them $218 a month more, is that right?
Well, it would cost them on an annualized basis, they pay $26,835 versus right now,
Well, you're going up the whole thing.
You're looking at
I'm
this is
looking
what
at
they
the whole
pay
year.
now, and then this is what you're,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's what I was looking at too, but he wants you to look at an annualized.
yeah, you're
I
talking
was kinda
about
looking at that much per month,
about $100 a month more.
depending on which rate you pick.
Depending on which one.
Depending, worst case,
Worst
On the-
case is about $218.
no,
It's $100 a month if you take.
it's
it on an
$100 a
annual
month if you take the 330 per gallon water. If you take the
Oh,
very
okay,
far
down
right
to
column,
water and sewer,
120.
It's actually $94.62 a month,
Okay.
is what it averages out to. That's the 316, like the 316 number versus the 330 number.
Okay.
So 94.62 is what that is a month.
So in an annual base, this is annual consumption and cost is what they're paying now this is what they paid last year or for 2022.
Right.
And with these increases is based on that consumption, this consumption can change. They
Sure.
are adding on right now. So this is how much they'll pay annually as opposed to what it was. So,
Okay.
you know, we're looking at about 2,100 a year more at the highest rate we had them figure. We just kind of wanted some examples of the tiering of what's going to happen if we start raising rates on them. So
And the sewer is $87.86 a month, is what that difference comes out to. If you do the sewer from the $1.72 to the $1.85 jump, that's what that is. So, $87.86.
So with these rates, after we had our committee, and this is what we asked Brian to get for us, so we just kind of need to make a decision to move forward with what we're gonna do with the water rate for Paragon, whether we keep it the same, or if we wanna raise it up in one of these increments, or something different.
I think we should raise it. We raised everybody else's.
You wanna make a motion to that effect?
Here is my chart. I just want to hand this out because this also tells what people are paying that we just raised it for them. And I think that's important too, because their average rate in town, our residences and businesses, went up an average of 25%. If we're only gonna give Paragon a 1.25% to a 4% increase, I'm not sure that would go over so well.
Well, we didn't increase the water rates on the village, that's just something that's enacted, that goes up. We increased the tap charge at the village, not the water rate.
Well, yeah, but we're looking at it as a whole. People look at the bill as a whole. And their average rate, and the way we set it on Facebook,
Well,
was
how
about
many-
25%.
How many people are paying $45,000 a year for water and sewer in the
How many
village?
people are paying $17.55 for a tap charge?
That's the Paragon's fee is
Yes,
$17.70.
per quarter. Nobody is. We pay 95 to 105.
So you wanna raise their tap charge? I think that.
I'm just saying, let's just look at this in a way that is, fair to everybody involved. And if, like I said, if we're only raising the total 1.4% up to 4%, that probably won't go over too well with all the other businesses. I'm not sure I'm even in favor of giving Paragon a specialty one. I would rather see that we do it as a tiered for all businesses. If it's good enough for one, I think it's good enough for everybody.
Is it, we're going over this for the rate for Paragon because it's a separate,
Paragon has their separate ordinance.
they have their separate ordinance for Paragon.
They-
So we have to just kind of keep Paragon in view here on what we wanna work with the
Right.
largest manufacturing company we have within the village.
We don't have it in the village. Let's remember, they don't pay
Well-
property taxes, nor do they pay RETA. So we aren't benefiting from this.
There's a few people that work
I think we've
Well,
got a couple
we have a
residents
lot
that
of people
work
who
there.
work at my place too, but that's not what we're talking about here.
We don't have anybody
Can
that
we,
uses-
could we possibly ask to incorporate them, number one? Or could we possibly, two, ask that they pay for part of the water tower? Because if you look at the total amount, did you say they pay about 60%? How much total water as a percentage? Because if our water tower and everything's gonna be $20 million, let's try to break this down into something like that, because if you multiply this over 10 years, this 25,000 that they're paying, that's only $400,000. And that's all the tower's gonna last. We have to think about being realistic here.
I guess we can have another utilities meeting to discuss.
If we increase the based on percentage,
Well, I don't know, we got a couple of people that's talked about it right now. What's everybody else think? What do we wanna do?
don't get me wrong, I like Paragon, has nothing to do with that. I'm saying if we're gonna do this for them, it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for everybody.
Yeah, but, that's.
I don't agree with the philosophy of that, because we're contracted for the large
That's totally,
No,
totally
that's,
against the way life is. The simple fact is, There is no one in this village who consumes 8 million plus gallons per year.
So,
No
so
one.
that encourages people to use more water.
What encourages people to use more water?
If you say that we give more, if we say that we're going to give people better rates who use more water, I thought we were trying to be more conservancy here.
Well, don't you believe there's a break in bulk? Like,
If you're gonna do it for
bulk?
if you're gonna do it for everybody, yes.
But nobody consumes this amount of water.
Anybody that consumes
nobody
8
comes
million
close.
gallons will get the same
Again.
deal.
Yeah, nobody
Again.
even comes close.
They don't pay property taxes, do they?
Well, that's,
Well,
Well,
they
of course
do.
they pay property taxes in the
that's something
county.
different than
Okay.
The
this.
state, county.
They don't pay property taxes in the village.
Well,
Nor
we
do-
pay property taxes to the county just like they do.
Okay, I think you're a little backwards here, because we're looking out for the village of Antwerp, right?
And our county.
No, you're wrong. We are looking out for the city of village of Antwerp.
Well, that's where I was elected, yes.
Thank you. So, if we're going to do this, we have to look out for the bottom line of Antwerp. We can't be giving away lots of water for free.
We
We're
ain't,
not
We're
giving
not
it
giving
away.
we're not giving away anything for free.
Okay,
We're just giving them a cut rate because they use so
If over 10
much.
years,
All
they're
right,
using
let's-
400,000,
Let's say we do this.
it's $400,000,
Let's say
but
we
it
was,
costs 10 million. This is not, how many businesses do you
but
run?
you're throwing numbers that aren't real. 10 million, 20 million. We don't have anything dealing with 10 or 20 million dollars.
These are the numbers Mr. Bryan has given to us on the cost of the water tower and the water plant
The
replacement.
water tower
So-
was $500 and some $1,000, which we got a grant from the
Okay.
state, which the state's already paying for that. The water treatment plant is under 5 million, which we
I
haven't
thought we
even got
talked
it
about it was
complete.
10 million.
It's under 5. We haven't
Okay,
even got it
even
yet.
so, say 5 million. If they use, say, even 20% of our water, that's not even covering the cost. This doesn't even count employees, chemicals, anything
Right.
else.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Let's put it
Let's
back
ask
to
you a
where it was
question.
in 2018.
Let's ask you a question. Let's say we just raise their water rate up to what everybody in the village pays, and they say, well, we just ain't gonna buy water from you no more.
That would be fine,
No,
because then our
it
equipment's not wearing out.
I think,
That'd be fine.
I think
Okay.
it's.
You wouldn't have the
they're
revenue to
hoping-
cover the
Okay,
cost.
they make the
Operations.
money and it's just fine. I am a business owner. Are you a business owner? I know how this works. We budget for these costs. Okay? I expect that we all pay our fair share. Our job as a local government is not to give deals, it's to provide equality and justice. But to give deals to one specific one, if you would even just say, look, let's do it as a tiered rate like other cities do, or other villages, and you say, okay, we have H2O uses this much, they get this rate. And then anybody could get that then, and it might encourage business to move here.
By
But
paying
right
a
now,
higher
we
rate.
single out Paragon, which I think Paragon's a great business. But I think we need to look at this a little more logically.
What was the 2016 number you said we did?
2018 to 2020, the price was $16 per 1,000 gallons. Okay, you can see the different numbers.
For the sake of time, this needs to go back to utility committee.
What did you say?
Well,
Barry?
I
For
can
the
just
sake
tell
of
you,
time.
the utilities committee right now is probably gonna say, we're just gonna raise a small rate like this, is what the committee.
So why
that's
don't we,
gonna say.
why don't we entertain somebody making a motion to the effect of what they would like to see and put it to a vote?
Well, it would have to be, somebody make a motion to make a proposed
Proposed, yes.
amendment to the ordinance, and then I would draft it, and we'd submit a proposed shower should be.
Is there anyone willing to do that?
And if we don't make a motion, it just goes to our default prices.
Correct.
That's
If we don't
correct.
change anything, it's gonna go right back to where it's at.
No, it goes to the non-residents without homestay.
No, there's an ordinance in place already that.
It ends-
Current rate, oh, it ends this year?
It ends. It is done. That's what Brian said earlier, and he's correct.
Well, right now, I'll make a motion that we entertain that it goes to the 325
And the 180 on the sewer.
and the 180 on the sewer. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Is there a second to these motions, Irving?
Did somebody second?
Need a second.
We need a second, Kenny.
Jay?
We can look at this again at a different time, maybe starting next year, see how they go with getting off the ground.
If there's no second, it's gonna fail, and we'll just,
I'll make a second.
all right, so there's a motion on the floor to have Shane draft a new resolution or ordinance. At $3.25 for water rates and $1.80 for the sewer rates. Dean Reister,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yeah.
Bryce Steiner,
No.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Kenny Reinhardt,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
All right, move forward with drafting the new ordinance. Now with that will need to be an emergency ordinance then, if it
It will
fails
be.
at the end of the month?
It will be.
You ready for the emergency?
Well, we'll have to wait until he has
He's
drafted.
gonna make an ordinance.
He's gotta make an ordinance, he'll make an ordinance as an emergency for next month.
Okay.
Okay. I think we discussed everything on the list except for the things that Shane wanted to speak with us about, which he asked that we entertain a motion for executive session for attorney-client privilege.
I'll make it.
I'll second.
Thanks. There's a motion on the floor to move into executive session for attorney-client privilege. Jason Franks,
Yes.
Kenny Reinhardt,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Jeff, remain.
Ian Reister,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
So we entered executive session at 6:20.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, because he called me, because I asked him to do the trimming because of the stop sign stuff. And he called me and said, hey, I appreciate everything you do for me. I'm going to they want me to trim that tree.
Yeah.
They're asking me to do that. I'll just take care of those branches for you.
Okay.
So I wouldn't communicate with him on it.
Okay, that's not going.
So usually he's pretty good. Of course, there may have been, I don't know, a bunch of trees there.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments to come before the board?
That's all old business.
Did we go over the Rita report? Was that anything? I know we didn't mention the Rita report this time.
That's always included right in the financials. It's
Oh,
really
we
got
used
it,
to-
and if you have questions, did you have questions on it?
Well, we normally itemize that separately as far as saying what happened. I noticed it was down $16,000 or something. Is there something that
It is
majorly?
typical, it does that, one month you'll, like last year it'll be this month, and next year will be the different month, and it always kind of does that. It's like 1 or 2 months out of the year, you'll see a negative, and then 1 or 2 months out of the year, you'll see a big positive. So it just kind of depends on when people decide to pay stuff in, I think is kind of what happens with it.
Okay.
Usually as long, at the end of the year, the bottom line is usually in the plus, so.
Anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have my.
Oh, you got the mayor's report.
Yeah,
I
just-
apologize.
I get to say
This is
my.
this is my first time, don't be mean.
You're fine.
Just talked about working together, didn't you? Sorry, Mayor, would you give me a
Applied to me
report,
too.
please?
Okay, this month, money to the city, Antwerp, $1,502, to the state, $450, and to the indigent drivers, $18, a total of $1,930. And trick or treating for everybody is Saturday, the 28th, from 5 to 6:30. Parade will be at 3 o'clock.
From where to where? Where do they meet at?
In front of
Trick or
the
treating?
manor house for the
Just-
parade.
Yeah, get in line in front of the manor house for parade at 3:15.
Jan, I noticed your numbers were up did you prosecute a lot more people?
I've been trying to.
Okay.
I've been fining people. If they bring them to me, I fine them.
We haven't had any more school bus drive-by.
No, we haven't.
Hopefully that calms down.
We haven't had that for quite a while, so it's
Good.
not
Those get
popular.
Yeah, they should,
Yeah.
we tried to make it even higher, but we aren't allowed.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I make a motion now?
Yes,
No.
Brian, you may.
I'll second.
Okay.